everyone, I'm Kendra Cook.
And I'm Autumn Jackson, and this is
Bumper to Bumper.
We would love to thank you all for tuning in to this web series. With your support, we have now reached our 10th episode. Which is really neat. Yeah.
We're in the doubles.
Really cool. So thank you, because really, if you guys weren't into these videos, we may not have kept them going. So this is really exciting, and again, we just really want to thank you. June will be 1 year for us, and we truly enjoyed educating you guys so far, and we're going to keep it up. We're really excited about this. Remember that new episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Just look Boyertown Museum up on YouTube. You'll find us there. Please subscribe to the channel.
Please.
It's free.
It's free.
Not many things are.
No pressure.
No pressure. You don't get any weird things. I know we said this before, but it really is just a low pressure situation. You just hit the subscribe button and you'll see all of our videos there. So we really appreciate that. We also want to remind our viewers that we are doing a Q&A right now.
Yes.
That's still going on. That goes live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on Facebook. And that's where Kendra and I sometimes walk around the gallery, sometimes sit here, hang out wherever we feel like it. But the most important part is we answer questions that you guys have asked. So you can submit those questions via email or on Facebook, however you guys would like, and we'd love to answer your questions.
And even if you're watching this and we're not still doing them, guess what?
Yeah.
You can go on Facebook and you can find them all.
That's a good
archived
point.
there. So you can start from the beginning.
That's true.
Yeah.
And they're not too terribly long. I mean, we're actually getting better at that. We're trying to shorten them a little bit. But
we're going to try that this month here, too.
We'll see what happens.
Wish us luck.
See you in 20 minutes at the end of this video. But yes, please do that. It's really exciting. We'd love to see you guys on Facebook every week.
Yeah.
So for this installment, let's jump right into it. We will be touching on early navigation devices. Specifically, this is cool.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Chadwick Road Guide. Now, for those of you who have not been to the museum, we have a display case that deals with early navigation devices. But first, let's talk about how we navigate in our cars and vehicles today using GPS and what the heck even is GPS. So, GPS is a global positioning system that consists of 24 satellites orbiting the Earth. Kind of cool. We're actually talking science today.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of education here today.
Well, I'm going to pretend that I know exactly how all that works. So.
Me too. But each of these solar-powered satellites, they orbit the Earth, and they do this twice a day. And this was developed by the United States military, and eventually GPS soon became available for civilians to use as well. So the orbits are synchronized in such a way that at any time, at any location on Earth, which is really crazy to think about, there are at least 4 satellites visible in the sky. So that's kind of neat. A GPS receiver, such as a Garmin or a TomTom, which is kind of bringing me back quite a few years there.
Remember those? They were expensive too at
Very
first.
expensive.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I'll just get lost or try my hand at it. So if you guys remember those, or of course the most popular GPS of all now, the phone, locates 4 or more of those satellites and calculates its distance to each one. So that's kind of how that works. It uses the satellites in it, and then it calculates the distance. So that's all happening on your phone, which is really kind of neat. And the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon actually affect them, which is science. I feel like Bill Nye the Science Guy. Excited.
Science.
Yeah.
We should get him to guest star on here.
He probably would. I feel like. But let's talk a little bit about the history of navigation devices, because really a lot of people, and I did before I started working here, think that this is a new concept, but really it's very old. In the beginning of the 20th century, these devices were referred to as road maps. So at this time, cross-country treks meant traveling by rail, not carriage. It just was impossible for a lot of reasons, and also, as we're talking about now, people just quite frankly didn't know where the heck they were going even. They had never been there before. They probably didn't know how to get there. So this is a new development in the early 20th century, and really, the first map, which is kind of neat, and I always say this, but please look into this, it's really, really neat. It was printed in 1872, and it was a railroad guide. Now, I want to just mention real quick that when we talk about this stuff, We have a bunch of guides, like the Blue Book. You may have heard of that. And there's also something that we have some information on in our case called the Negro Motorist Green Book. So please research those as well. Really, really cool stuff. But around 1909, patents started popping up for these road maps. And a couple examples of those would be the Rhodes Pathfinder and the Jones Live Map. Now, I believe the Jones Live Map was one of the earlier patents for these devices. And he had invented, I think, something called the Speedo something. He was quite an interesting
SpeedX?
guy.
Is he the SpeedX guy?
I think he was the SpeedX guy. And this stuff,
These are like devices. Like, we're not talking like a paper map.
yes, I think that's important to know. And Kendra
Even
will get into
though-
that.
Even though they're calling them maps,
Yes.
it's not like a paper map you'd unfold and for the road. And
Yeah, don't envision that. This is an actual device that's in the vehicle and attached to the vehicle, which Kendra will go over then, but it's really, really neat. But anyway, while these road maps were essential, okay, as we talked about, just to get from point A to point B, they really have their limitations. Many used landmarks in their instructions, which is funny. I have to give you these examples here. These are a couple. Turn left around drugstore, or pass under trolley arch. Just hopefully there's only one. You know, or caution for dangerous curves. And then there's one of my personal favorites. Take a right fork at the flagpole. So these are vague, and many times these landmarks actually disappeared, which made where to turn very puzzling for people because, you know, quite frankly, it could have disappeared in a matter of days and you're going back again and it's not there. So it's kind of frustrating, and we'll advance from this. But this is just the beginning. And I always try and remember these instructions, and when I get frustrated with my phone, when it's not loading, after 2 seconds, I'm like, why is this taking forever? It's been 2 seconds.
Yeah.
These people were looking for flagpoles
Yeah.
and trolley arches, people.
A barn that burned down 6 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's quite fascinating, but there was a road map made in PA, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting, like you said, you know, all this stuff is, I mean, imagine the change now. Like, if you were to follow directions like that now,
Yeah.
how quick they put up strip malls and housing developments and stuff. And, of course, I mean, things were changing, too, back then, maybe not as quickly. But, yeah, and then to update them, they didn't have the technology that we did to update them as fast. So, it's confusing. Yeah.
Yes.
It's confusing. So, yeah, you're talking about, was there one that made in PA? Well, there was, and let's start a little before the one was made. Let's talk about the gentleman who made them, Mr. Lee Chadwick. Now, as Autumn mentioned, we have a display case that talks about some of these devices. We are fortunate that we do actually have real examples of these devices that I'm about to talk about in our case. So you have to come out and see those. But let's talk about him before he got into navigational devices. Lee Chadwick was always interested in cars and that kind of thing, and he started out dabbling in actually building cars first before he was trying to steer them in the right direction. He was building them, and he started that with a company called the Fairmount Engineering Works, and that was in 1904, and it was in Philadelphia. He had been with another company previous to that in Philly, but this was the one that he started and was really actively trying to build a car. So while he's with Fairmount Engineering Works, that's when he starts to build Chadwick cars, named after himself, which is
Naturally.
pretty much most people were doing. So vain. But
Yeah, I know. Not your dog or like
Yeah,
your wife or something. No, yourself.
yourself. So he pretty quickly, honestly, outgrew the factory that he was working in there in Philly. And in 1907, he moved to Pottstown, and he started the Chadwick Engineering Works. And specifically, if you are familiar with Pottstown, Pennsylvania, he did this at 150 South Kime Street, which, again, if you know Pottstown, you'll find Dana Corporation there today. So that's where he was starting out, and he built a car that he called the Great Chadwick 6. And he did that in 1906. and his cars are going to really quickly earn a reputation for being really, really nice, really speedy, and high performance cars. Okay, now they came with quite the hefty price tag, $5,500. So okay, in the 1900s, let's adjust for inflation. We're talking that's like $150,000 car today.
That's nuts.
So yeah,
that's luxury. That's what he was.
Yeah,
that's what he was building.
Not everybody is going to be
Holy moly,
tootling these things around. That's
wow.
for sure. Now he is like kind of never really happy with his car. He's always trying to improve it. He comes out later with like a perfected Chadwick 6, which is a total lie because then he starts to perfect it. It's funny. So he's also known for coming up with a supercharger for his cars. And he did that in 1909, 1910. That's really, really early for supercharger. I mean, we talk about that now with like street racing and hot rod. No,
that's really neat.
He was doing that in 1909.
Wow.
And if you come to the museum and check out the case, we have a photo of a car with a Chadwick with a supercharger in it. It had to be factory installed. But any case, so he's an interesting fellow. Now, he gets sick of the car business, quite frankly, and one of the big reasons he gets annoyed with them is he gets annoyed with Light Foundry. Now, I don't even remember where we've talked about Light Foundry before of Pottstown, but we've talked about it, Autumn and I know I've talked about it on our other programs with the museum. But Light Foundry was in Pottstown, and they did all the aluminum and bronze castings for the Chadwick cars. They're famous for it. At one point, they, for a few years, built the Flying Merkle motorcycle in Pottstown as Light Foundry. So Light Foundry basically tells Chadwick that they don't want to make his castings anymore. This is like 1911 or so. They're done. And that really irks him. And he just kind of gets sick of it all. Like it's like he's sick of all the red tape and the politics and I don't know. He's just sick of it. So he leaves Chadwick Engineering Works in 1911. The company stays in business a few more years. 3 more years before it folds, but he leaves in 11, and he starts to make his Chadwick Road Guide, which he patented that same year, 1911. So that's why we're talking about him this episode, but we'll give you some background because, you know, he had so much he was doing in Pennsylvania, especially Pottstown, and that's cool.
Sure is.
So he has this road guide that he comes up with. Now, like I said, we have 2 of these in a case in the museum. You'll have to come and see them in person. But we're going to throw some photos up here on the screen so you can see it. We talked about getting one out of the case, but we couldn't get a nice close shot for you. So we're going to throw some up on the screen there, some photos. Now, this road guide, this is a device. Okay, this is one of these road map devices like the Roads Pathfinder that Autumn mentioned or the Jones Live Map. So you put this device inside your car, okay, so it's visible for the driver. The driver needs to be able to see it. It has a cable that comes out a shaft at the bottom of the device, and that cable is going to connect to sprockets on the wheels of your car. That's so it can measure the distance that you're traveling, you know, as the sprockets turn. Now, inside of this device, okay, there is a disc. It's like almost like the size of like a CD or a DVD, really.
Yeah.
Like a compact disc. And that's good. Each disc was good for a 100-mile trip. So whether one way or a round trip. And each disc is for a specific route. So let's pick a route, Autumn.
Yeah.
Where would you like to go? Here from Boyertown, where would you like to travel? Make sure it's within 100 miles of here. Don't get too crazy now.
Okay. How about Limerick?
Oh, she's so exotic. All right, so let's go to Limerick, everybody, from Boyertown. So you could, well, we'll get to this later. Okay, let's just say they made a disc from Boyertown to Limerick. You would get this pre-programmed disc. Okay, you put it in your device here, and there's little holes that are punched into this disc. Okay, it wouldn't be a very good CD player. And as the disc turns, as you travel, because your sprocket is
Sure.
rotating, and your disc is going to turn as you travel. Those little holes are going to correspond with these spring-loaded pins that can punch through the hole, essentially, and it's going to release a directional indicator in those little glass windows at the top. Okay, so it could be a little right turn arrow that pops into the window. It could be a veer left arrow. Yes, there's a veer left and a turn left arrow in these, or a veer and a turn arrow. It could even be something like a warning sign that the road ahead is rough. So you just follow the instructions. It's almost like when you printed out those MapQuest directions.
It is like that. Yeah.
Turn right, and that's what you did. Now, of course, you have to start exactly where the disc is programmed for. Okay, so we here are at the museum on Walnut Street in Boyertown, but that disc might have me leave from the intersection, of Philadelphia and Reading Avenue.
Yeah.
And you have to depart from the point that it's telling you, or you're going to mess it all up. It won't be accurate whatsoever.
Wow.
And then you're just lost.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
So
Crazy.
now you could buy a pre-made aluminum disc with a route already programmed into it. Now that costs you 40 cents. Okay. Now let's say I couldn't buy a Boyertown to Limerick route. Okay, that wasn't available. What I could do was I could buy a blank disc. Now those are only 15 cents. And you could get a model of the road guide that had the option to punch your own route. Okay, so and then then I could say I'm going to leave from my house.
Yeah.
Located on Elm Street instead of the main intersection in town. But you could get these these blank discs, put it in, and as I'm going to turn right here. I punch the brass key with the right turn arrow, and it will make a hole that corresponds with that associated pin to give you to light your way.
Wow.
To illuminate your way. So
Jeez.
How much did this cost? Well, without the disc making feature, it was $75, or you could spend $90 for one that had that option. Now, I know that sounds really crazy for 1911 and pretty advanced, and it is. It is really interesting and unique. But you have to remember, there were other devices that were doing kind of similar things to this. Like we mentioned earlier, this one is like super cool to us because, of the Pottstown connection, obviously, through Lee Chadwick. We would love to have a Chadwick car, and it's probably just not going to happen. There's not many left, and they're really, really expensive and highly sought after. But we do have these road devices, so those are cool, and a little connection to our Pennsylvania Pass there.
Yeah, I think that's so neat. And I actually didn't know that you could get blank discs and do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I imagine people doing that at that time, and it's just so neat to think about how they would be doing that.
How well it worked.
Yeah, that's what I really want to know.
Was it like a sham? I don't know.
I gotta hook it up to the Kia when we go outside and see what happens. But, I mean, this was just so neat. And I thought this was, I know we both think this is such a great episode. The devices are so interesting. We probably said 10 times now, come look at the case. Mm-hmm. We have examples of all types of these type of things in the case. I think we even have like a Garmin in there to compare, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
So please come in and check this out. And then tune in next month when we talk about one of our favorite little mascots ever. We post a lot about him on Facebook.
Yes, we do.
Reddy Kilowatt.
Good old Reddy.
I know you guys have heard of him. And for those of you that haven't, please tune in because it's really actually kind of neat. I think this will be a kind of a fun episode for us next month. So
he's adorable.
He is just adorable. He's just a little lightning bolt. Look him up. And tune in next month, like I said, when we talk about Reddy. And don't forget to check out all of our episodes on the museum's YouTube channel, as we said. Hit that red subscribe button, totally free. And that way you can get all of our videos on there. And also, like us on Facebook and Instagram, because you can get the most up-to-date information about all the goings-on here at the museum through those pages. So please follow us, subscribe to our pages, and we really just want to thank you guys, and we'll see you next time in April when we talk about Reddy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you again.
Bye. Bye.